I want to welcome you to another episode of Guidance for the Soul Live. This is the wisdom moments. We're in the middle of a wisdom moment for Brenda in her own vision. She's been destroyed, is what some souls would say, by those negative moments that she's had in her own heart, which is basically my heart goes out to those who've had to go through this process alone. And when I say that, I mean those who didn't know they were going through the process of alignment within their own hearts and minds with others who adore them on the soul level, but have a different outlook on life than what we may have once we cross over. Correct? It is about the Jesus moment for many. And Brenda is hesitant to talk about that notion due to the nature of those who are saying it's my only way out of this hell that I created on this plane. And what others are starting to see and hear are about the soul visions that have come through and said his moment has passed. But in essence, his soul is still vibrating in the nature of love for all of us in various realms. And yet, many are starting to see how we are all aligning within the vision of who do we really create with when we're walking upon this plane or interacting with those on this plane who are in the here and the now. This is your moment of freedom. Many are saying that they want to unite with a man who crossed himself and placed himself in a place of aplenty and decided for himself, I love who I am enough to know I'm not of the high in this moment. I didn't do a disservice to my family. I enlightened them to the nature of love of hate for certain souls. That's where many of us are in our hearts. Brenda's had her own moments of what hatred is based on the past vision that she encountered in her own world. Now, when her world was turned upside down with her children, correct? It was but a pause in the vision. A pause. She had to take a pause and say to herself, does this really help me or my family to have others of my family tree tell me there's something wrong with who I am when I've encountered, quote, the devil vision they placed upon me from their own vision, which they themselves created from, correct? Most of us have not created from that vision very long or very often. And I'm telling you, it's not a vision of hell or the devil. It's basically anger and hatred for people who are here to kind of truth tell the moment. You will get those visions of those souls who say, from a heart vision, I destroyed you in my mind by putting you in that place. That's what she had to deal with some souls, because they condemned her for feeling beautiful for who she was when she aligned with the nature of her own soul's wisdom, guidance, and love for herself and her family and the whole entire universe. She's not unconditional in her love, only in the vision of, I'm universal in it. I'm not here to say that I won't defend myself if you come attack me. I'm not that kind of soul. I'm here to let you know why. She puts up with those, quote, manly visions of old that say that they are better than others, including the women who reside on this plane, whether or not they agree with it or not. There are many men who are utilizing that vision to get a discrepancy of her soul and say, I told you she's not only honoring of us, she's explaining it to us. How it hurts all of us to be labeled as less than. And yet, they are doing it in their honor, trying to align us with those higher values of who we are, correct? Yet what happens is many of us are aligning with that vision as we are here, helping others along the way see more of the beauty of who they are when they are on this plane, rather than waiting until we cross over to the other side, usually upon our death from this plane. It's not a death of our soul, it's just a form change. We let go of the form that we've chosen for this plane. Your right to be wrong is what some would say. Some will say, I can't accept that vision because it means that my own vision is somehow less than. You're creating your own bounty in whatever ways you deem or need to. Okay, deem to be or need to be. Many are saying they need to be somebody else or something else. An angel, perhaps? A witch, perhaps? A starseed, perhaps? A man and a woman combining together to be of wholeness is where many of us are in our romantic visions of who we are as souls. This is where Brenda was hearing from soulmates. And that vision is still aligned with her heart, but her mind was being torn asunder by those of her past who claimed they were of that, but were not letting her be in her mind enough to see the beauty of her own wisdom coming through as her, rather than an alliance with another soul who said, I'm not in that frame of mind with you just yet. I love who I am enough to set you free is where Brenda is, with many souls who think that they have to berate her in order to get through to her. Just ask for your freedom and it's granted, is where she is. She lets go the best that she can with those souls who've hurt her in her heart. It's her mind for the most part, but there are souls who have physically hurt her in her heart, torn her apart in their minds and said, patooey, onto her grave. They want her to be part of a family tree unit that is more about the discovery of who they are in pain and misery than the freedom and discovery of who we are as souls residing upon this plane. And I want you to understand why that might be. Many of us are attached to the family tree unit's discovery of itself in various forms. I may be looked at upon this plane as guide, but we are all guiding ourselves in our own discovery of who we are. Brenda is more about that than most people. She has often said, I learn more about myself when I look through the lens of others. And that's what they start to understand, is that her own heart has been looking through her eyes for a long time now. That's her soul, her guidance, her wisdom. Her expectation of privacy is still there, but it is often disregarded by those souls who are trying to get through to her that there's a problem in her messaging, perhaps, or it's just not in alignment with who they thought they were in their own minds. My fear is my own, is where Brenda is. I have my own fears of the unknown, but I step into it often, and sometimes it does hurt me in my mind when I realize that I am not creating the best with certain souls upon this plane who love and adore me but don't agree with me. That's been a big issue with my heart for the most part when it comes to the process of the discovery of who I am as a soul. I don't expect you to agree to disagree anymore, is where many souls are. They stopped with that idea that we can agree to disagree, and instead they violently attack others upon this plane. These are the souls that she took into her heart and said, I understand why you need to be that way. You've got issues, is what many are saying. And Brenda is more about, if they were in the vision of love of all, they wouldn't be doing that in the first place. For the fear of the unknown is what is driving most of us into these conditions of savior state or fear of freedom to be who we are. Brenda had to do that vision very well for a long time due to the nature of knowing I've been attached to my own soul's wisdom for a long time. And many people would say, as long as it aligns with Jesus or angels, then it makes sense to me and I'm okay with that. But once I start going outside the field of religious inspiration or other ideas, then people start to get wise and say, we understand. Your soul is your soul. Your wisdom is yours to grant to others. Yours is on the line. You see, Brenda knows that we create with others, and when she hears their vision of what love is, they often start to back away and say, I love who I am for who I am. I'm the angel worshiper, or I'm the Jesus worshiper, or I call upon the devil when others come upon my path who allow me to see who I am from a different perspective once I've crossed over into that field of vision of love of all. You see, that's the nature of where Brenda went. She doesn't place that vision upon anyone's heart because it's not true for her. I know others have needed that vision in order to release the pain of discovery of who they are from that place of awareness. My child was killed by another is where most go with those kinds of visions. She's had terrorists who would have identified as such, come to her and say, we've forgiven you for your sin. And it drives her up the wall, for she says, I understand why you're in that field of awareness. It was a label placed upon us at one point in time where we were given the extra step of aligning with those who wanted us not to do the work that we've done to align with our own souls in the here and the now, rather than wait until we cross over from this field of aplenty, which is where she's at, to another field of vision that's more notoriously open to the discovery of guidance and wisdom and hearts. Most of us have planted the beauty of who we are as souls in heavenly realms of wonder. And others are saying, it's my heavenly realm that I'm looking forward to. It's a destructive place for some people who are here to do that vision and do it creatively. Brenda's one of those souls that knows how to destroy the ego vision, but she is careful and wise in how she applies the vision. It is only in a desperate attempt to get people to wake up from the destruction that they may be causing on this plane that she would look at someone in the face and say, I see more about you than you even understand about me. Okay? We're not all aware as Brenda is aware, but we are all beautiful and adored and loved by our souls, and Brenda is aware of that. So sometimes when she sees the vision as less than, right? No, it's a difference of opinion most often about how to be. And her own soul is saying, I want you to be differently for me because I need you to come through with the love of all more often than not, rather than focusing on your own heart as a wise soul carefully working its way through this field of vision of destruction that many are participating in this moment. Brenda is looking at the field of values of Syria and how it came to be. And she is understanding the nature of extremist in the extreme. She knows what that means. Many will align themselves with the visions of books of old, and they take that to another level of understanding. But the majority of us are here are of peace in our minds, wanting peace, adoring peace, loving peace, creating peace, enjoying our lives in the ways in which we can, most often if we are out of the vision of slave state first and foremost. And that is where many are trying to erase the future from that vision. It's not about saying people are in the slave state, but you can become enslaved in the mind to a place of I can't create outside of family trees, or I can't create outside of certain books in order to be free from the nature of those who tried to create that vision for me. Many will say, I'm going to hold you hostage, and that is what she was told about certain souls in the plentiful field of vision. She knows what they know. She knows how they go, and she knows where they go. They go to their own field of vision. Their souls will align with the highest vision of who they are most often and come through from a different place that aligns with the nature of we bowed down our head and prayed to God. That's where her souls are. But others are in the field of vision of Allah, and others are in the field of vision of higher source, spirit. The wisdom keepers are her heart in certain souls, but those were those souls. She has souls on her heart who say, I can't let you go because you're not telling people how much you utilize a certain system that highlights you as special. Brenda's done something so strong that most people won't want to necessarily look at her in the same way. She's embodied her soul from a place of a plenty. And that means she has plenty of wisdom for each soul who decides to create with her. If you want to know what that wisdom is, it is not necessarily her own opinions. She knows the difference. Her souls know the difference. And they know they can trust in her vision to align people with their highest vision. And when many say, my highest vision is to go to God and to be a part of that vision, they will start to understand that the daily lives they live are more in alignment with who they really are, rather than a book of old that they sometimes open up and peruse every once in a while. That's where a lot of souls are. Others are very much in the daily rituals of it, and they still create from the pleasure principle of it. And that is why we want people to understand why it can be a pleasant experience to hear from a terrorist who was labeled that on this plane, and who said, yeah, I decided to become more like her and align with the layers of love that I chose. Brenda is under layers of love is what they would think. This is what others are saying. She was, quote, attracting those who would attach. And she says, I'm not abounding with bound souls. I don't bind myself to souls. And they don't abide by that vision is what others would say. And Brenda's like, this is the nature of what a channel would say. I'm of the high, and those souls who love and respect me leave once it is granted. And that is why Brenda said, I don't bind any soul to who I am, so they don't bind themselves to me. That's the nature of the love of all. We wouldn't want that for everybody, would we? That's where Brenda draws the line. She says to herself, is this something we would create for everybody? It's a childhood prank, is what someone would say. She dived in very, very wisely and said, I honor those who honor all of us, not just some of us. And if those souls say, I can honor all of us, they know how to come through for your soul. Wouldn't you want that? Or are you more in the field of, I need to hear what I need to hear when I need to hear it? And if my soul can't give me what I think I need, then I'm not going to trust it. That's the trust ingredient Brenda is talking about. It's an aspect of a program she's creating titled Trust, the secret ingredient. You must trust the source of vision that you create with. So if you're in the vision that I see evil in people, you might not want to place your vision on that soul. Brenda doesn't see evil in the vision because she knows it's a vibration rather than a person or thing. And most people who've ever walked this plane have never touched that vibration, much less honored that vibration as anything other than a made-up soul's vision that had to do something with its pain in order to try to create the freedom for others' pain. But it was a mistake, is what some would say. There are no mistakes, but that soul would say, I created a tragedy for a lot of souls, correct? That idea of devils and devil worship has been around for eons, centuries. Wisdom from that becomes the idea for many souls. And that's why Brenda had to deal with certain souls who actually did that vision at one point in their lives. So when Brenda says, trust me, I know who I am and how to get out of, quote, trouble, it's not trouble. It's a vibrational vision of those of honesty saying, I made a mistake. They didn't make the mistake in their lives, but they honor the vision that I could have done better rather than looking towards a higher vibration of a lower vibrational being. That's who all of us are. We have higher vibrational aspects of ourselves that we can always align with. And that's what you do when you go to your soul. You say, I'm looking for the highest vision of who I am. That's your soul. The highest vision of who I am. Not who Jesus is. That's his soul's vibration of who he was. It's his wisdom, his guidance, and his projections of those visions. And while he has those visions available for Brenda as well, she says, thanks, but no thanks. I'm good with my own soul's vision because I'm utilizing a different kind of source, one that is more open to the nature of each individual soul who comes to me, gets their own wisdom from their soul, not necessarily from a specific guide. I know how to do that vision and can do it well, but I don't need to. Because this is about the path that we're going, where others are realizing we want to align with our own soul because our souls are our future. They're our past, present, and future combined. They are the wisdom of all of us in essence, playing out the roles that we play on this plane. And when you realize you can grant yourself the wisdom from your other aspects, from your other soul aspects that are in different planes of realities, then you start to see why people are the miracle workers. They grant themselves the wisdom from their past, present, and future, not just the past. That's the highlight of the soul moment, okay? So it's not saying there's anything wrong with going to Jesus in his mind. That's where some are in our families, and we honor that vision. But we also say we know why. And it's not about fear, it's about conditioning of it for many. Okay? It's the conditioning of the fear of the unknown. And that is a normal attribute for many of us to create with. Brenda went through terror moments in her process because of choices she made, and missteps is what some would say. She is not of mistakes, she is of missteps. I made a choice I knew I was making, and I knew it wasn't going to be pleasant, and I didn't listen to my soul. That's how I know. Okay? Now, when you get guidance from your own soul, it doesn't mean you are required to do that vision. You have free will and soul sovereignty to change your mind at any point in time, or to be whoever you want to be. And I love who I am always, whether or not I feel it in every moment or not. I'm that kind of soul as well. So with that, I want to grant you that your own soul would love you to feel that wisdom, wise, guidance. God is where some are, right? All souls have their own vision of what it is to be of a higher vision than what they themselves can even imagine. And with that, we want to say thank you for watching. And as always, stay curious, wise, and soulful. Have a beautiful, beautiful week.